All right. Do you really want to get to this Jimmy Dore stuff?
I mean,
well, I guess there's a certain
don't put it on me.
No, there's a certain amount of, I know there's a lot of people who have sent me this clip and basically said, you deserve some credit for sort of seeing this trajectory 5 years ago. 6 years ago, I guess now. 6 years ago, almost, maybe a month or two shy of now. And Jimmy Dore, I guess we're not, which one is this one? This is the first one, right? This is where Jimmy Dore is trying to argue because of the redeployment of 700 troops to Somalia that Joe Biden is not as anti-war as Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we should say, increased civilian casualties because they specifically took off any type of restrictions or restraints. And I'm not defending the drone program, as he entered. But they took that drone program and said, we no longer have the same requirements to avoid civilian casualties. And the number of civilians killed under Donald Trump's drone program grew. They skyrocketed over 330% over the course of those 4 years. I'm sorry, from 2016 to 2019.
Yeah.
And that was from the Brown University's Cost of War project. It increased 330% from 2016 to 2019.
So that's Obama's drone program already abysmal, indefensible. Trump removed guardrails and increased civilian casualties in it. Plus, assassinated Soleimani, bringing us to the brink of a massive conflict or war with Iran. Plus, tore up the Iran deal, which also contributed to those increased tensions. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Here is Jimmy Dore, just coming off of an interview, I guess, talking about the misinformation disseminator.
Still has still has him listed as the inventor of mRNA vaccines, which is, as far as I can tell, is a very questionable claim made by him.
That's a screenshot from Real America Voice, but whatever.
Go ahead.
It's just,
So what were they really afraid of with Trump? They were afraid he wouldn't do this. That's what they were afraid of.
He's talking about the 700
go along
troops.
with them because he didn't come up in the Republican farm team. He didn't come up in the organization. He didn't have groomers. Trump didn't have donors.
Pause it for 1 second.
For his
Incidentally, the Heritage Foundation literally handed Donald Trump a list of judges. The greatest transformation of the federal judiciary over the course of 4 years that I think we've had in the history of this country. All the names were just simply handed over on a piece of paper by the Heritage Foundation to Donald Trump, and he just went like this. Leo Laporte, I think it was not Leo Laporte. Leo Laporte is the tech guy. The head of the Federalist Society was embedded.
Leonard Leo?
Leo, was embedded in the Trump White House, just signing off on every single request of the Heritage Foundation. But continue.
Trump didn't have donors for his whole life like everybody else. He was a donor. So he didn't owe favors like everybody else. They couldn't control him like they could control everybody. So what they did was they concocted Russiagate, red baited him for 4 straight years, and impeached him twice because he didn't have his mind right. So if you were the anti-war person, you should have voted for Trump and the Republicans. That's what this means. If you're pro-war, you vote for Joe Biden and the Democrats.
I was trying to save abortion. That's why I voted for Biden.
Ha ha ha. I recommend that you go back to our 2016 debate where Jimmy Dore thought it was impossible for the Republicans to have 3 Supreme Court picks. But the bottom line is that the 700 troops going back to Somalia and if you go back and read Go back and read from the Quincy project what they were writing about the pullback of these 700 troops in Somalia. They said it was too quick. You were going to, the pullback was actually just to neighboring countries so that they could continue an air campaign, which we know kills more civilians against al-Shabaab. And the most studied and respected anti-war voices coming from a place that is, was both funded by libertarian money and Koch brother money, and also I think Soros money, came out and said this is too rapid. It is going to unravel. I'm not justifying the sending of troops there. I don't think we should have any involvement. But the idea that you can sort of just quantify that Donald Trump was less pro-war than Joe Biden is just absurd.
Who pulled us out of Afghanistan? I'm just interested about that question. Which president? Which president? Which president? I mean, right? That was the United States' longest war, and Biden took us out of it. Not saying Biden's some dove, but that's accurate. And I just want to point out something really quickly before we get to the other clip. The first ever event I went to, working at TYT, working in this field, was a Trump campaign event in Manhattan. And what Jimmy just said there about how he was, he was a donor. He's not bought by the same people that bought Republicans. All that stuff.
That was Trump's line.
It was indistinguishable, because that speech of his, since it was my first event and seeing Trump in person, it was crazy. It's burned into my mind, and it's just it's like he copy and pasted from Trump's 2016
I was the briber.
speech.
I wasn't taking bribes. I was doing the bribing. That's why I'm much better.
Exactly.
January 1st, 2020, Trump deploys more troops to Mideast after U.S. embassy attack. Charging that Iran was fully responsible for an attack on the U.S. embassy in Iraq, President Trump ordered about 750 U.S. soldiers deployed in the Middle East. There's about 3,000 more prepared for possible deployment in the next several days.
Pull up that Jimmy Dore video from that date to talk about how
Damn, I was wrong. got them
I'm
again.
sorry. On that day, I was just beginning to try and figure out how I was going to attract some more right-wing viewers.
He must have did that because of Russiagate, I think. I don't
Put the second, not the one about DeSantis, but the next one up.
So what has happened here, in case no one's noticing, the parties have flipped when it comes to foreign policy. The Republicans used to be crazy war hawks, and you associate war hawkery with a right-wing position. Now the Democrats are the right-wingers, and the Republicans are the anti-war lefties. So that's all that. That's Republican right-wing red-baiting bullshit.
Okay. So what Jimmy's trying to do here is say that that left and right don't mean anything. They have no as we understand them in politics, they're just jerseys that you put on. And of course, it is 100% not the case that I don't agree with the necessarily $40 billion for Ukraine, particularly in the context of not having some other like COVID relief attached to it, whatnot. I don't know that I would do those numbers, but the idea, the idea that Republicans are simply just not voting for this because it's a free vote for them, it's just absurd.
And like that single one vote about this Ukraine funding is a proxy for foreign policy positions entirely. Like every one of those Republicans that voted against this $40 billion, what's their position on Palestine?
Exactly. Because, right, I mean, they don't necessarily care about imperialism or like incursion into sovereign countries. That's the fundamental foundation of this.
And of course, you're anti-war if you cheer on Russia invading another country.
The invasion, yeah.
let's play clip number 3 of Jimmy Dore of the day. This is the where he is now basically sheep herding people into the Republican Party. Now, remember, this is the guy who rails on the duopoly, who does not believe in voting for the lesser of two evils, because that is in some way an affront to his. That's what this guy. That was his whole shtick.
Because there was a third party that happened at some point, right? I thought he was behind the People's Party.
Well, the People's Party, and where's he trumpeting the Green candidates here? It's weird. It's weird. It's almost as if his whole buy-in against, or his whole railing against the duopoly and not voting out of fear, the lesser of two evils, was really just to get a way to get people to not vote for the best shot at getting left-wing proposals enacted. That doesn't mean that it was going to happen. It's simply the best of two options, or three options if you want to include that as well, of getting those things. But Jimmy has a new boss in town, and it's basically, guys, look, this guy just chases the money. Yeah. Period. End of story. We haven't played on the show that Graham Elwood clip. We just played it on the live show. Even the guys working on his show now critique him for that. The ones that used to work on his show. The reason why they have Kurt What's-His-Face now on there is because the other people on his show left because they saw that this guy was really full of shit. But here he is praising Governor DeSantis, who, incidentally, just signed a bill to outlaw protests in front of private homes. In other words, rich people's homes.
That sounds very authoritarian, I suppose.
Yeah. Here is Jimmy Dore.
And so now now they give a right winger like DeSantis, who should be repulsive to people who are on the left. Now they make him attractive. And how are they doing it? Watch, here's what he says.
But clearly, our entire principles that the country was founded on, you cannot have a ministry of truth in this country. And so let's get real here. Let's make sure that we're doing things to benefit Floridians and Americans, but we're not going to let Biden get away with this one. So we will be fighting back.
The Democrats are losing everybody who's gives a lick about liberty, freedom, it's civil rights. They're losing everybody.
They've lost.
They tried to paint
Ron
Trump.
DeSantis.
Remember during Black Lives Matter that Trump was a crazy authoritarian who's going to send the army into the city. Well, now Joe Biden is doing worse. And so they're making guys like that look attractive. If you're for freedom, if you're for free speech and civil rights and liberties, who are you going to vote for? This guy or Joe Biden? Tough call, though, isn't it?
Okay. So,
not really.
First of all, what happened to the third party? What happened to don't vote the lesser of two evils?
I like lesser of two evils GOP doors. That's a fun little shift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in putting that aside, of course, this is the day the day after Ron DeSantis signed on Monday that bill outlawing protests in front of private homes. And Donald Trump did actually send the military in to break up protesters.
Mm-hmm. Free speech warriors.
Indeed. I mean, Donald Trump had a lot of other ideas, incidentally, when we go back to him not being pro-war. He wanted to bomb Mexico, but the deep state stopped him. In fact, his own Secretary of Defense did. But the idea that Jimmy Dore is telling you that Ron DeSantis is now attractive to the left. He literally is built a whole apparatus to prevent teachers from expressing that they are not heterosexual in the most casual of circumstances.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Dore's got a problem with teachers since he said the teachers' unions are fear-mongered by Fauci.
But he's a huge LGBTQ
ally, let alone a union ally, right? Not supporting the teachers' unions that were a little bit nervous about going back to work in a pandemic with very little protection.
So suddenly he's given up the third party a couple months out from the midterm elections. talked about how DeSantis is attractive. The real question now is how soon will he be taking that PragerU money? Will that happen before the 2022 election, or will he wait until 2023?
This is a tried and true path. It's again, I'm returning to this
highway
phrase.
at this point.
What'd you say?
It's a highway.
It's a highway, yeah. Well, it's a highway to a bunch of cash. Like, look what you made me do, right? I had no choice. I had to leave the left because look, DeSantis is so attractive to me, right?
Exactly.
Any leftist would look at that guy and think, I think he represents me a little bit more than mainstream Democrats. Nut job.